Hey guys, what's up? It is Mr. Wolfie, and I don't know if you know about this, but I have recently started playing Magic the Gathering again. And yeah, I know that's gonna be. I mean, some people like it, some people don't. I do. I always kind of enjoyed playing it back in the day and didn't really have anything else going on, so I was like, well, this new set's coming out, I might as well get back into it. It'll be fun. Uh, and I actually bought a new playmat. So I'll go ahead and show that to you, and I'm kind of excited about it because I needed one, and I looked at it a bunch, and this one just kind of jumped out at me because I liked it. It was good. It has pretty colors. But anyway, I've been working on a deck. I had a black blue. It wasn't really Demir, but it had a lot of Demir related cards. But it was a mill deck, and it featured things like Jace, Memory Adept, and the Consuming Aberration, and several cards that played off of them. And it didn't do very well overall. I tried a couple different builds, and I just didn't really like where it was going. So I started building another deck with some cards that I had on the side, including I got a playset of Liliana's Reaver and a playset of Night Veil Spectre and some other good cards that I decided to make a all black deck because I've always liked black as a color because I don't know, it just kind of has a lot of synergy with itself. It can pretty much run mono black against just about anything if you can assemble the right cards because there's so much to work with in black. Most other colors kind of have they're one trick ponies in a lot of ways. Blue is pretty much going to be all control related. The big creatures are going to have some kind of extreme cost related to them, like all the Krakens. You have to have 50 islands in play and sacrifice a bunch of stuff each turn and all that kind of stuff. Green has huge creatures, but they all cost a ton, which you can make a pretty sweet mono green deck. But really, the only thing about green is that it's pure muscle. It doesn't really have, it has almost no direct damage ever, has almost no control related elements ever. It's just creature related. So green is cool, but it has some limitations that I don't like. So I never run mono green, at least not anymore. White is pretty good. White and black are pretty much the best mono colors, in my opinion. I mean, you always got red that can burn everything ever and still has huge creatures, but red has almost no life gain. Red, a lot of stuff in red that's the best stuff actually kind of hurts itself, and it has no ability to, or very little ability to control anything or counter spells or prevent other decks from, running some sort of engine like high artifact, high enchantment related engines. I mean, there's some here and there, but they're usually it's a very limited feeling in red. I mean, it works still. It's probably the best. It's probably in the middle. It's probably the third best color in my opinion overall. But black and white, but I won't really talk about white here. Black's just great. I mean, it's got life gain. It's got some counter abilities. It's got discards. It's got creatures that gain you life and stuff that gains you life and stuff that hurts people when you gain life and card draw abilities and creature removal. It's just fantastic. I mean, there's no drawbacks to using a mono black deck, really. I mean, it's just fantastic. But I'm working on this one, and it plays off a couple of limited combos. It's not going to be any kind of... I could make it really awesome, but I'm just kind of using what I have instead of buying extra for this particular one, and it's going to be pretty decent for what it is. And I'm going to add a lot of stuff as I get it from Theros. But the basic combos are... there's a lot of cheap creatures. The majority of the creatures in the deck are 2 cost or below. The spell... what is that spell? Anyway, it's the one that I pay 3 either white or black, but in this case it has to be black. And X, and then I bring all the creatures from my graveyard with converted mana cost X. So all you gotta do is pay 3 black and 2 others, and boom, you bring back everything 2 cost that was in your graveyard, which is the real reason to, or the real way to run this deck, because there are sacrifice engine related goals. I don't have what I need for it to be perfect yet, but this is just what I have access to. If you can see it in the video, in the picture, then you'll know what I'm talking about. The Grave Bane zombie, or the Grave that zombie. I'll put a little tagline that has its name in it. Anyway, he sacrifices a creature, you gain a life, and the opponent loses a life. Then you got Sanguine Bond, which whenever you gain life, an opponent loses a life. Then you got Dark Prophecy, which whenever a creature dies, whenever one of your creature dies, you lose a life and draw a card. So that's card draw abilities. I'm also going to add Underworld Connections to it, so I have more card draw there. But basically, you feed you do your basic. You could do aggro and basic creature fighting related things. Use the creatures to the best of their abilities, and if that doesn't work, because the goal is to make it fast. But if that doesn't work, then it has mid game applications, because then you can get your creature sacrifice and animation engine going, because once you've got your graveyard full of stuff, then you can either play the spells that bring your creatures back, or use the Elixir of Immortality, which is one of the best cards like ever. It is so awesome. It has so many applications. If you can run, it's got control applications out the wazoo. So that'll gain you life, which if you have Sanguine Bond out, it does damage to the enemy. Puts everything back into your library, and by doing certain things, you can start your card draw again, which I'm still working on that. There's like an Altar's Reap, I believe, is the card that I'm trying to get a hold of, and some more Drainpipe Vermin is the only commons that I need to have this deck running the way I want it to. But the Altar's Reap will be like the perfect card for this, and I need it. But anyway, there's a lot of little things and nothing definitive. The best thing in the deck, the Night Veil Spectre is pretty awesome. It's got a lot of applications to it, because you can it's just a fantastic card for the cost. 3 mana for a 2/3 flyer is pretty good by itself. Then its secondary ability is pretty handy. It causes disruption and gives you options that you don't really get otherwise. You can play cards from their deck. It's very handy if under the right circumstances. But even if you can't get it under the right circumstances, it's still a 2/3 flyer for 3 mana, which is fantastic. So boom. It gets the job done, and it's earned a place in the deck. But Liliana's Reaver is one of my favorite cards, especially because for a 4-drop, it's incredibly powerful. It's got the 4/3 is great. The ability to have Death Touch is fantastic, because you can either use it for a blocker that they're scared to attack with their big creatures, or you can use it to just keep plowing their face in, and then his secondary abilities come into play, which causes disruption and gives you tokens. He can do like 4 or 5 things by himself for a 4-drop. It's just a really good card, and I'm gonna keep all 4 of those in there, because they just not only do they fit the theme and kind of have a cool aspect to them, but it creates a lot of synergy with the other cards, giving me tokens to sack if I need to, and chump blockers there if I need to, and causes more disruption with the discard, and really it's a perfectly balanced card, because if it cost more, it would still be worth it, but not as worth it. But if it was more powerful for the cost, it dies to a lot of removal. Dies to just about every basic red direct damage spell, because most things are going to do 3 damage. So a lot of people, if it was a 4/4, it'd be so much better. I'm like, well, of course it'd be so much better, because then it'd survive direct damage spells. But it's just perfectly balanced. All his abilities are offset by the fact that they have a slight drawback to them, and slight means just a little bit. It's just not as fantastic as it could be. The tokens he creates come into play tapped, so you can't just make a token to block with after you've dealt combat damage. It's a brilliant move on their part. They really put a lot of thought into this card, and the fact that you can't choose the card that they discard is it balances that out. So it's a really fantastic card. It's not broken. I really recommend it to anybody that wants to run a black deck, period. I mean, it fits with black in any format. I can't think of any reason not to run him, honestly. And then Drainpipe Vermin is a card that I really like because it creates an interesting instance of there's this 1/1 creature sitting there, and it's got an ability that can be activated only when I kill it. Do I want something to happen to it, or do I just want it to kind of be off to itself? So it gives you a 1/1 creature that they have to think twice about doing something to. Also, it gives you an alternative or a secondary ability to activate when you do something like sacrifice it. I mean, when it dies, you pay the black. Boom, you've dealt the 1 damage, or they've lost 1 life, you gain 1 life, and they've discarded a card, all for like 3 mana if you've got that zombie out. So, and not only that, you gain a life, or you lose a life and draw a card, and there's just so much stuff that plays off of each other that there's no one solid strategy, and that may be a limitation of the deck, and I'm kind of working on that, but it also creates options, which is something that I love, and the one reason I love black. I love having options. That's why I usually run control, but I had a pretty decent black-blue rogue deck back in the Lorwyn Morningtide and Shadowmoor block. So I'm no stranger to aggro. I just don't prefer it because I like having control, and that's one reason I tried to use the Dimir deck, but it didn't really work out the way I wanted. I'm gonna work on it some more and make it better, but anywho. Oh, and I need to mention the Devour Flesh in this deck is another thing. I mean, like I said, it gives me options. I can either make them kill a creature and boom, they gain life, but that's not a huge loss. Probably, if the way this deck runs, it will eventually catch back up to it. But in the event that I want to influence my engine, and that I want to, I can use that Devour Flesh to gain life, kill one of my creatures, activate one of the secondary abilities of some of the enchantments and things, and start the engine running again, and then just bring it all back, or however I want to do it. And I mean, there's so much you can do in that aspect, and I'm really working on tweaking it. I'm sure some people that play Magic will have some ideas, and feel free to put them in the comments because I'll pay attention as much as I can. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. If you can't see some of the cards, what I'm going to try to do is put some names and things over them and under them in the video so that you can read. But it's all good, whatever. Anyway, this has been Mr. Wolfie. I hope you enjoyed this. Peace out.